Well, today is April 30th, and guess what? That marks 100 days. 100 days of the Trump administration. Depending on who you are and what your ideology is, those 100 days may feel like dog years. There's been an awful lot going on. The mainstream media has been on a rampage, painting a very one-sided picture. MSNBC, here's one of their headlines: unadulterated disaster. Trump spends the first 100 days sabotaging what makes America great. Reuters, how Trump waged war on his perceived foes in the first 100 days. NPR, 5 takeaways from the week, nearing a constitutional crisis. So, what's the real story? I'm not saying it's the opposite of everything you just read, but could it be somewhere in the middle? Since Franklin Roosevelt, we have never seen a president do so much in so little time. And how's America seeing it? Well, this is the first time in 20 years that a Republican has won the popular vote. And the Democrats are at their weakest in a generation. I mean, I've seen numbers of 27% approval rating for them. So, I mean, come on. We're really seeing some changes, and the Democrats seem to be self-destructing, rudderless, lost. As of last week, Trump has signed 130 executive orders.
I'm about to sign some very important executive orders.
Now, that means he's keeping his word on his campaign promises, despite roadblock after roadblock after roadblock.
You better take a look up the road there, fella, because we got us a roadblock.
Interference from activist judges, the media, and political opponents. And what do I mean by that? Well, he's getting more than a lawsuit a day. He's got 150 lawsuits against the Trump administration since January 20th in response to his executive orders, as well as executive proclamations and memos. Now, that's according to Fox News Digital, because they've been counting this stuff up as it's been going along. Now, was every decision the right one? Look, it's too early to tell. No one knows. I'll guarantee you there have been mistakes made. It's only been 100 days. We've got to let it play out for a while. But here's what I do know. Things are changing. Things are getting done. And you have to shake it up to break it up. Sometimes you can go in and nudge things along, but sometimes you really have to tear it down to really get anything different. And you can't change what you don't acknowledge. You really can't. If you don't say this is wrong and admit that to yourself, you're never going to get it changed. And sometimes you make the right decision, and sometimes you just have to make the decision right. So let's focus on the facts. Let's focus on some of the key issues here and see how we're doing on some of the macro issues. And I can't go over all 140 or however many have been signed, and I haven't checked today, so I'm sure there have been more. Immigration. This is the lowest level of migrant crossing in 25 years. Now, remember, I've said many times, I'm a big fan of immigration. We need it. We have to have it. We need to encourage it. But there's a right way and a wrong way to do it. In December, the end of the Biden presidency, there were 47,000 apprehensions. In February of 2025, under Trump, there were 8,450 ICE arrests. And among those, there were hundreds of alleged members of the violent Tren de Aragua and MS-13 gangs. And these people were arrested and deported to El Salvador. Now, a lot of people object to that, but it does send a message. You don't want to come here if you are a gang member. You don't want to come here looking to institute a criminal enterprise, because if you get caught, then you're going to get deported. You're going to get deported to a prison. They've arrested leaders of violent anti-Israeli protests on campus. Now, look, That's been very controversial, but I have to tell you something. You want to think about this critically. Have there been mistakes made there? I'm sure there have. But think about what we're talking about here. These are people that are on elite campuses in America that are politicking for, demonstrating for, activating for the demise of America and its allies. They are protesting for and demonstrating for and in support of terrorist groups that have killed Americans and are holding American hostages. Is that okay with you? Is that what you call free speech? Is that okay with you? And let's just do a fact check. Trump has deported 10% fewer immigrants than Biden. So according to NBC, about 11,000 immigrants were deported in February of 2025 versus 12,000 in February of 2024. So just taking that month to compare, 1,000 more were deported under Biden than were deported under Trump. But you don't hear the legacy media, the mainstream media, talking about that. Why? Because they're not reporting the news, they're running an agenda. And if that doesn't offend you, it should. I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat, that should offend you. That you're turning into something that's labeled as news, and they're not giving you news. They're giving you propaganda. That offends me. It should offend you. DOGE, that's another big thing, right? Department of Government Efficiency, run by Elon Musk. Now, reportedly, they have eliminated billions of dollars in government contracts and by shrinking the federal workforce, according to the Cato Institute. Now, Americans want these cuts. They do. There was an April poll, 89% favor auditing all government spending to root out waste, fraud, and abuse. If you ask Americans, they would say they would just cut 40% across the board. Just across the board. Don't even look. Just take 40% across the board. But they're not doing that. They're going through and trying to do an assessment, an analysis. And they're making cuts with some direction. Even so, there have been relentless attacks on Tesla because Musk owns Tesla. There have been both physical attacks, vandalism, destruction. They're driving by Tesla dealerships and shooting through the windows. One of the drive-bys went through a window and went through a computer monitor. Could there have been somebody sitting behind a computer monitor? There was not, thank God, but there could have been. And it's had an economic impact. Tesla profits plummeted 71% at one point. Now, you should really be concerned about the hypocrisy of this, because these same people that are doing this are the same people that were saying the saving grace for our climate are electric vehicles. The biggest manufacturer of electric vehicles is Tesla, Elon Musk. So he's the fair-haired boy until he starts making cuts through DOGE, and that offends some people, so all of a sudden now, let's destroy him. Well, good luck with that. He's the richest man on planet Earth. The chance that you're going to make an impact on him financially is not very good, particularly when you're not actually impacting him directly. You're out ruining the business and the automobiles of people that bought them because you supported them buying them. Now you're putting their name and address on the internet so they can be terrorized in the real world because they agreed with you about protecting the environment. Does that hurt him? No, it doesn't hurt him. They have to go buy parts from him now, so you're making him more money. Come on. Then how about the Department of Education? It has been largely dismantled, about half of its staff fired. Well, why? Good question. How is the Department of Education doing? Well, in 2024, almost a third of fourth graders and eighth graders can't read. They can't read. Even at the most fundamental level, they can't read the instructions on a prescription. If it comes with instructions that says take with food, they can't read it. If there are signs on the side of the road that says slippery, they can't read that. How do they get to the eighth grade? So the Department of Education is not doing their job. The nation's report card, academic recovery from COVID, has cost $31 trillion in potential cost to the future GDP from COVID learning loss. That's from the Hoover Institute at Stanford University. So they polled the teachers. Only 20% say students are progressing well academically. 70% of the students say all or most of their peers are bored in class. So they're not doing a great job. And the Department of Education admits failure. There was a quote in January on the 29th this year. Quote, despite the billions of dollars that the federal government invests in K-12 education annually and the approximate $190 billion in federal pandemic funds, our education system continues to fail students across the nation. Speaking of money, in fiscal 2024, the DOE grant spending totaled $150.3 billion. We're spending a lot of money with an agency that is not working. It just is not working. So how's our economy? Well, we're going to call it as it is. The Fox poll says 82% of Americans are extremely or very concerned about inflation, as well they should be. It's interesting how Fox can be critical of Trump, but the mainstream legacy media never says anything good. At least Fox says good and bad. The tariffs on Chinese imports, they're escalating a series of tariffs that have reached 145%. That sent the stock market on a roller coaster. Is it good or is it bad? I don't know yet. I can't say. Maybe that's not a smart thing to do. We will have to see. If it's wrong, they need to change it. They need to back off. Trump said it wouldn't be easy. Look, it's unnerving. But it's not Armageddon. The Dow is still up almost 5% over a year ago and 67% over the past 5 years. But maybe it's not right. Maybe it's costing the average American too much money. Maybe it's going to put some small businesses out of business if they can't afford the increased dollars that they have to pay to get the goods they need to run their businesses. That needs to be taken into consideration. He's doing what few presidents would dare do. America asked for change. And he's creating change. And I'm going to watch and I'm going to see whether it all works or whether it doesn't work. He has said some things that I think need to be reconsidered. When he was talking to the president of El Salvador, he said, well, it's great that you're taking these illegal aliens that have come here to create crime and advance the agenda of their gangs. And he said, homegrown's next. Wait a minute, what? You're talking about sending Americans to an El Salvadorian prison? Surely not. If that's right, I got a problem. That hasn't happened yet, but if it's in the thinking, I would have a big problem with that. That's why I say I'm going to watch real closely. I'm also watching what's happening on universities. He has said, okay, listen, you've got federal money, grants coming to these universities. You need to comply with the law or we're going to suspend those grants. Everybody's up in arms about that. Look, follow the law or I don't want my tax dollars going there. If you are fostering intellectual rot, if you are having students that are being indoctrinated instead of educated, I don't want my tax dollars going there, not a dime, not a penny going there. If you're indoctrinating and not following the law, if you haven't eliminated DEI, if you are practicing racist policies at these universities, then I don't want my money going there. We have had a generation of left-leaning students that have now become left-leaning professors that are creating a whole generation of American-hating, radicalized students. That's not okay with me. We need to enforce civil rights. And if they're suspending these federal grants to Harvard and Princeton and Columbia, that's okay with me. We need to have these people comply or not give them federal money. If they want to give up the federal money, then we'll fight this on another level. But I don't want my tax dollars paying them, and I don't think you should either. It's been a busy 100 days. Like I say, sometimes you make the right decision, sometimes you make the decision right, and he needs to be willing to admit if a mistake has been made and fix it right now. If a mistake has been made, if the wrong people have been impacted, he needs to say, that was a mistake, I'm changing it, I'll fix it, we'll do this another way, or we won't do it at all. He has answered more questions, nearly 100 questions from the press during his first 3 cabinet meetings this year. That's 20 times the number of questions President Biden answered during 4 years in office, according to the Washington Times. So, a 100-day marker. A lot of things have changed. Let's be open-minded and see how they work out. I promise I'll tell you the truth. I'm not sure if these things will work out. Some of them already are. Some of them, jury's out on. We'll see. But I will tell you the real story. Wherever you're getting the real story, make sure you subscribe and follow. Your body is a system, and when it's running right, you feel focused, energized, in flow, but sometimes we struggle to find that flow state. Why? Because there's too much static in our system, brain fog, fatigue, and inflammation. The Echo Flask clears the static by infusing your water with molecular hydrogen, a natural science-backed gas that helps your body think sharper, recover faster, and run smoother. This is more than hydration. It's better focus, more energy, faster recovery, less internal stress, and longer-term benefits that keep you sharp. When your water works harder, your whole system does too. Find your flow state with the Echo Flask hydrogen water bottle and get an unlimited supply of hydrogen water at home and on the go. Visit echowater.com/Phil and use code Phil for 10% off. That's echowater.com/Phil. Enter code Phil to save 10%.